get straight to the expert. Robert Edwin Kelly is Associate Professor, Department of Political Science at Busan National University, joining us live from Busan. Robert, good to have you with us today. Thank you so much for joining us. From your view, do you believe that this is indeed the fifth nuclear test?
I do. We have to wait to see what we hear from the South Korean Ministry of National Defense, from the United States Geological Service, the CIA, organizations like that. We're still waiting for official recognition that this is what it is, but it looks an awful lot like it. As your correspondent said, it's in the same basic location that the tests in the past have taken place, and that's what the geological data looks like. So yeah, I think it's pretty sure. It's also sort of it corresponds with the national holiday in North Korea, and the North Koreans have a tendency to sort of do their big things, sort of provocations, nuclear tests, in alignment with their calendar, so it wouldn't be a surprise.
What sort of message should we be taking, should the international community be taking from this?
Sure, I think two things. The first is that North Korea is a nuclear power and they're really here to stay. I think it's going to be very, very hard to get North Korea to denuclearize. This is all something that we want, I think, including the Chinese, who really don't want a nuclear power like North Korea on their border. But I think the North Koreans, they're telling us by these tests, this is the second one in a year, which is pretty unique. This is the first time this has ever happened. I think they're telling us that the nuclear weapons are not going away. We can talk to them about it, we can negotiate around the edges, but North Korea insists that it's a nuclear power and they want this. I think the second thing is that this is telling us that North Korea is independent of the powers around it, including South Korea and China, even though they're under sanction, even though they're dependent on China, that North Korea is independent and strong and they can build these, super powerful weapons.
Is it fair to say that there is a breakdown at the moment between the North Korean and Chinese relationship?
There was a couple years ago. Right now, people seem to be suggesting that North Korea and China are sort of moving back toward one another because South Korea is going for missile defense because of North Korea's nuclear weapons. But yes, I do think that North Korea and Chinese relations are much colder now than they have been in the past. China doesn't want a North Korea that's really, really unpredictable and that does a lot of things to create regional instability, and they really don't want North Korea with nuclear weapons. That doesn't mean they want North Korea to implode or collapse, but they don't really want North Korea sort of unpredictable with nuclear weapons. And so that is the fundamental tension here. The Chinese actually agree with the Americans on denuclearization. They just really disagree about the means, how to get there.
Okay. Just before we let you go, Professor, what is it that happens next, do you believe? I mean, how many more of these tests does North Korea put out there before the international community does actually step in and do something?
Yeah, that's actually the big question, right? I mean, how do you actually respond to these things? I mean, the options are really limited, which is why North Korea keeps doing them. Military action, of course, would be hugely destabilizing and would risk a major conflict. That's highly unlikely. South Korea repeatedly takes North Korea to the UN for sanctions and things like that. North Korea is under very heavy sanction, the heaviest yet actually were passed a few months ago. We, the Americans and the South Koreans, have worked with China a lot, and China has come around a little bit. But unless China really cuts off North Korea, North Korea will be continually able to import the weapons and the cash and the technology and the parts in order to keep these programs, missile and nuclear programs, rolling forward. So I wouldn't be surprised if we're here again in a year. I mean, the ball really is in China's court. I mean, do they want to sort of rein in North Korea or not? The rest of us on the outside, the United States, Japan, South Korea, I just don't know how much more there is we can do.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Professor, we appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for joining us at late notice.
Thank you very much.